Hey everybody, Jessica DiRuzza here from Psyche, and I'm just feeling really inspired to come on and share some of my thoughts that have been happening today in my private practice with my clients. So let me start off by saying I really love my life and I really love all of you. And I think those two things directly go together. I think that when we really love the life that we're living, it's so much easier for us to show up and genuinely love the people around us. There's just this overflowing energy of love and gratitude, which are inextricably interwoven. So what I want to share today are thoughts that have been coming up in my sessions with my clients who I adore and love so much, and I learn so much from every single day. And on just a completely personal note, I just want to say that my breasts are really big because I'm 7 months pregnant and I can just feel it on the camera. They've grown like 2 cup sizes, and as much as that maybe seems like TMI, it's just the reality of being a woman and motherhood. And our culture is a culture that has nipple phobia, and nipple phobia is something that's a detriment not only to all women but children, because there's such a taboo and shame even to this day around women's breasts and showing their nipples, particularly when it comes to breastfeeding. So I just want to start to advocate for that and put that out there as a very soon-to-be mama. So what I want to share today actually has to do with the topic of libido, which really relates to our chi, or our life force. And in the birth chart, you can see libido directly connected to Pluto. There's also a special relationship with the sun and Mars, right? These are all vital, life-giving energies that we see in the birth chart. And what I want to say is this. Whatever issue any one of us might be facing in our life, whatever question we might be holding about our path, whatever problems we might be dealing with, for me, it always comes down to 2 things. The first is it worth your time? And is it worth your energy? Because our time and our energy are our 2 most precious resources that we have as human beings. They're the most limited resources that we have. And I think it's really important to remember that time and energy are resources, and that we have a choice every single day how we invest, and it is an investment, our time and our energy. And this is where I think meditations on death and our mortality are extremely helpful in aligning us with our path and our purpose. From the beginning of my life, have always sat with the very real reality of death and loss. As some of you know, my dad wasn't around after the age of 4, and my grandfather, whom I lived with and raised me until I was 8, died. And so death and loss have been central or integral to my life story from the beginning. And I think that did something to my consciousness as a little girl that made me very aware of the preciousness of life and the limitations that we all face as being human. And so one of the gifts of death, it's a very Jupiter-Saturn theme, is the realization that because we only have a limited amount of time and energy to be here on planet Earth, it actually acts as a creative catalyst for us to be motivated, to be driven, to go for what it is that's most important to us, whether that's our dreams, whether that's our ambitions, whatever it may be. Death is a creative catalyst for exploration and creation, which is a very Saturn-Uranus understanding of death, which is square in the sky right now. And I'm also born with it, with Jupiter, which is also in the sky right now. So this is very relevant to the archetypal energies that are present in the world transits, but it's also obviously very personal to me while I'm talking about it. And so death is a creative catalyst. It's from a reincarnationist perspective, we humans at this time on Earth are living somewhere like an average around 80 years, at least in more developed countries. And that's longer than we've ever lived. So, we get, let's just round it up, if we're lucky, 100 years on this earth at a time for each incarnation. And part of the veil of forgetting, where we don't remember our past lives in concrete detail, is that the limitation of the 100 years we get here is the container, the Saturnian container, for both the gestation and creation and creative expression of our soul. We need Saturnian containers in order to develop and evolve. So death is literally the container that holds us in our life force energy. And so the two principles are that we have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of energy. So whenever somebody is coming to me with a problem that they've had, maybe that's a problem in their marriage, maybe they're trying to decide whether or not to get divorced, maybe they're trying to decide whether or not to quit a job, big life decisions. At the core of what I'm holding in myself is, do you want to continue to invest the limited precious resource of your time and your energy, which you can never get back, into this marriage, into this job, into this relationship, into this project, right? We could do the example of, if you were to die tomorrow, if you were to die next year, like whatever it is it worth it? And if the answer is no, then it would be very difficult for me to counsel you to continue to invest in that relationship, in that project. It would be unwise of me to lead your soul down that path some more. It's just that often what we have to do to break the chains from our current conditions is so great and often filled with so much fear and doubt that it temporarily, in the immediate moment, seems easier to continue with the job, or to continue with the marriage, or to continue with the relationship, or to continue with the project that feels toxic, or that feels bad, or that you've outgrown, or is limiting, or is causing you dis-ease, or is causing you great agony. In the immediate moment, it's easier to see that path than it is in the Uranian changes that one would have to make in order to step out of that path. But if we zoom out and we ask ourselves the question, when I go to take my last breath, when I go to close my eyes for the last time in this body, in this form that I'm currently in, will I look back on the moment that I'm in and the decisions that I'm making favorably or unfavorably? And the measure of that will be the extent to which you are at peace with yourself and your life decisions. So if we can zoom forward on our life's timeline and project our consciousness to the last moments of our life and reflect back on this present moment in whatever the decisions that we're needing to make or the conundrum that we may be in, and ask ourselves, will I die in peace, knowing that the decisions I'm making right now are the most favorable and conducive to the path that I want to be on, the dharmic soul path that I want to be on, that is most true and right and fulfilling for my unique soul? And if the answer is yes, then continue. But if the answer is no, then get the help and the support that we all need to make the change, whether that's with a therapist or a coach, friends, family, like whatever it is that you need to get that support and to take those steps to make that change. Because your future self will be so much thankful and grateful that you took the momentary, harder path but higher road, so that the outcome of your entire life is a higher path and a longer road. So is the current situation that you're in worth your time and worth your energy, your most two precious resources that you'll ever have? We only have so much libido to go around. I only have so much energy to give. So every time I choose to invest my energy in one thing, I am choosing to not invest it in something else. And this is just like the hard, cold calculus of life and managing our time and managing our energy, which I think are two of the greatest things that we steward as individual human beings. At the end of the day, as we step more into our authority and more into our power, what we're doing is we're stewarding our time, we're managing our time, and we're managing our energy. Who gets it, for how long, when, why, how, right? Being here with you, this is a choice that I'm making to consciously spend my evening after work doing this live stream instead of resting, instead of going for a walk, right? That's a choice that I'm consciously, intentionally making right now because I want to, because this is life-giving for me. This is fun for me. It helps me to share my inspiration as it comes as a form of integrating my process. So when we accept that there is real limitations to our libido, we begin to be able to take ownership for our decisions and make more intentional choices on how we spend our time and energy and the investments that we make in every single relationship, whether that's with a human, with ourselves, with projects, right? Those are all different types of relationships. And so when we acknowledge that that's an investment of our limited time and limited energy, our two most precious resources, we actually begin to take responsibility for co-creating or manifesting our reality, because we're saying, no, I'm choosing to do this. This is a choice. I don't have to do this. I don't have to be in this relationship. I don't have to be in this job. And as much as we tell ourselves, yes, we have to, if that is coming at the expense of your health, your mental health, your physical health, right, your well-being, I would want to say, I challenge that idea and would encourage you to seek help in getting support to seeing it from a different perspective and getting resourced to be able to see it from a different perspective and to make a different decision. When you go to pass out of this world, when I go to leave this world, can I look back at my life and be at peace with myself? Because I believe that that is the greatest gateway into what comes next and to leave behind what we have done. My goal at the end of my life is to die with my heart completely open. And in order to die with my heart completely open, every decision I make between now and then determines my direct ability to do that. If I'm living in resentment, if I am living in anger, if I'm living in bitterness as the primary form of my consciousness that it's taking, then the chances that I'm going to die in peace or die with an open heart are very small and diminish every year that I get older. The part of Saturn in its weaving its karmic web throughout our lives is that the more time that goes by, the more ingrained our patterns become. Those are thoughts, those are behaviors, those are actions, and those become our karma. Those become the consequences of our decisions that we have made. And our karma becomes our reality. And when we live in that reality then shapes our character. And when our character is shaped, that then directly shapes our soul. So the decisions that we make have a very strong effect on all those different levels of being. And every day that goes by that we continue to invest our time and energy in things that aren't serving us, that we've outgrown, that are causing ailment or disease in our being, is not only leading us down a path of being closed-hearted, lacking love, lacking compassion for ourselves and for others, living in bitterment and resentment, which we know leads to a lot of physical ailments, not to mention spiritual ailments, but that it actually diminishes our ability to experience love, joy, and magic in our lives. When we invest our libido into relationships that aren't giving us the return that we need for our needs to be met and to be fulfilled as human beings, when it's a one-way street and not a two-way street of reciprocity that's generative and life-giving, where you feel safe, healthy, happy, and seen as the primary modes of that experience, that means that energy that you're investing into that relationship is a black hole. It's literally going into something that you're never going to get back, that isn't actually helping you or that person, and in return actually takes away from your ability to invest in yourself and to invest in decisions and a path that is going to give you the highest return in your life. If you are from my experience, like if I am stuck in my ability to find the home that I want to live in, for example, if like it's blocked, it's not flowing, then I have to stop and look at myself and say, why is that? Why is that blocked? And it's like, am I siphoning off my precious energy and time, which is sacred, into something that's dysfunctional or toxic that isn't actually giving me what I need? Because if that's true in some other area of my life, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for things to flow in the realm of finding home or finding place or finding that career that you want. And I think oftentimes it's really hard for us as humans to be honest with ourselves and to look at that and say, yeah, like how that person is treating me, like let's just, if for example, if there's verbal abuse or emotional or psychological abuse going on and you're being shamed, more days than not about who you are or how you are by somebody in your life, it becomes so difficult to be able to move forward with your work or your creative projects or your self-expression, because you're constantly in a trauma response to living in this dysfunctionality that is siphoning off your creative life force, which again is a limited, precious resource. And so naturally your libido can't fully go into the other things that it wants to flow into to generate the best life that you can have for yourself, because it's going into this black hole situation with diminishing returns that eventually leads to ailment. So that's kind of the stream of consciousness that's been coming through and just, working with my clients today. And there's a lot more I would always love to say about it, of course, but I just think that it's so important for us to be really honest with ourselves about how our time and energy are not just limited resources, but also investments. And we are choosing to make those investments, however it is that we're making them. And if we can be honest about that, if we can be truly honest about that, then I think really anything is possible for us. I think when we take ownership for what it is we want and are willing to take the direct steps to make that happen, which are often very difficult to do, seemingly more difficult in the immediate term than continuing down the path that we're on, but ultimately more life-giving. The reward is greater, but it takes more time, a very Jupiter-Saturn theme. That I believe anything's possible. So when I get stuck or atrophied in a certain part of my life and be able to, manifest or create what it is that I want, I have to be like, well, am I in alignment with like how I'm investing my life force and energy? Like, am I? Because if I'm not, and I'm like giving up my energy and time to a relationship that isn't giving it back, and I'm living in anxiety, or I'm living in fear, or I'm living in a place of guilt, I don't care how many workshops you take. I don't care how many tools you learn. I don't care how many skills you have. Until that's addressed, until the libido is reclaimed and then invested back into ourselves and back into all of our projects in our life, we're never going to have the things that we want in the way that we want it, with the ease that we can have it. Period. So that's my stream. I'm going to end here. Thank you so much for being with me. I see you all making comments and waving, and I just appreciate your comments and your waves. It makes me not feel like I'm just out here floating in space, talking to myself, which I do most of the time. And just sending all my love to all of you. And I made some recent videos on my YouTube channel, Trust Psyche, which you can check out on Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury, Mars. I had a lot of fun doing those. And yeah, just always love being here with you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And if there's anything you ever want me to talk about, just let me know. I'm always open. Okay. Hey. All right. Ciao. Bye.